But yeah, like I'd love to sort of start off with introductions, like who are you guys, what are you guys working on, and sort of like what are some of the characteristics of your guilds?
Yeah, so Ready Player DAO, I talked a little bit earlier about us, but we are a Web3 gaming guild and investment DAO, so we invest in Web3 gaming as well as Web3 gaming infrastructure, anything that will elevate the Web3 gaming space because, the core thesis is Web3 gaming is a revolution to how we see games being developed and how asset ownership and the freedom to transact is elevated by blockchain and crypto technology, NFTs as well.
Hi everyone. So my name is Kevin. I've been in college esports for about 8 years. I like to say I was building stuff I wish I had in school. What that means is I was building esports programs at higher education for Twitch for about 4 years as a global PM. I left last April to dive into Web3 to focus on Southeast Asia to institutionalize and build gaming esports programs across Southeast Asia. Pivoted into Web3 very recently in October due to what's been going on with Axie and YGG, and just really inspired to see how it's lifting people and giving them empowerment and enlightenment. And I think for college gaming communities, I'm really excited to bring Web3 and merge those two cultures together. So yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And the title of today's talk is value extraction among guilds and Twitter. Like, could you guys briefly elaborate on what the problem is there?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, most of the guilds today are relying on asset lending and yield generation from asset lending to players and gamers in the Web3 space. And a little bit of what I talked about earlier was how simple and easy it is to extract from Web3 games as they are currently developed and built out today. And we're starting to see a shift away from that model, and there's going to be a shift in business model and revenue generation from a lot of the Web3 gaming guilds as well.
Yeah, I got it. I think like what's happened this last year, right, was Axie Infinity popped off due to the pandemic, through people needing to survive, and they found a way to make money through playing this game, and then it blew up, and everyone started looking at the space, and one of the ways that people started monetizing was buying assets and lending out revenue sharing, and that's kind of what has broken different game economies. And now we're seeing the first generation of like Web3 games I've seen, or I guess second wave generation, have been really designed about to really maximize profit when I think it's missing its first principles, which is like, can the game be fun? Can people inherently just play it and do not care about how much money they put in? Just like how I played League of Legends for 10 years and sunk however many dollars buying skins, and the earn part of play to earn for me for games like League or RuneScape or World of Warcraft was I felt like I belonged in that world, and I felt like my identity mattered more than in those games than in real life, and so I didn't care how much money I put in it. I felt like I was part of something. I think that's kind of what has I think is misleading a little bit about what's going on in this space, and I think I'm excited to see that it's shifting away from the extractionary natures with guilds and with these newer games.
Yeah. You guys have both alluded to sort of shifting away to a new business model, not doing this sort of like lending and earning, and moving to content, moving to other esports perhaps. Like, what is the relationship then, from the game's perspective, with the guilds?
I think that's going to shift towards, like you was mentioning, esports, content creation, and building a game-focused community. I think we'll also start to see more traditional guilds start being formed specifically by gamers for specific games. So if you think about what guilds look like in something like World of Warcraft, where it was a community of gamers looking to achieve a specific goal or mission in a specific game, I think we're going to see a lot more of that, where people are actually just getting together to progress in a certain manner that's amplified by having a community. as well as attaining higher value assets, which is something that's always been around, but I think it's going to be a little bit different in what we see in like the Web3 gaming guild space. So it's like something we're seeing with YG with their sub DAOs that are game specific, and they have separate goals than the parent DAO, right? I think we're going to see a lot of that start forming out, and subsections of communities and of these guilds focusing on certain aspects of the games that are directly related to the game and not directly related to earning. So to your point, you were talking about putting money into a game and receiving something else of value out of it, whether that's experience, some kind of social aspect. I talked about player archetypes before as well. It's like you can receive other things of value that aren't purely financial, and I think that's a lot of where some of the tokenomic models are going to shift towards, where players are putting $5 in and currently expecting to get $6, $7 out. But I think the future state of things is going to be put $5 in, get an experience, get inherent value from playing a video game, and then when you want to move on or want to get into a different game, potentially you get $2 out. Right, and that's not something that we have in Web2 space right now. It's more of a honeypot, right? You're putting all this money in. There's no way to get any of it out.
Oh yeah, the meta is like buy assets, negotiate with the game for like 50% cheaper, and then like try to make your money back doing a 50-50 revenue share in like 2 to 3 months and get that exit. It's like not like that's not how I want to make my business. But I think what a really good program that is an inspiration to how we design college esports programs is. Based off of Wizards of the Coast. I attribute all modern games to like the World of Warcraft League, all to come from Dungeons and Dragons, because I think Web3 is what it does is we're gonna have an abundance of imagination, and so I think what I love about what the space does is the ability to co-create together with these communities that are formed based on these digital nations that are being formed. But Dungeons and Dragons. Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering was the core pillars, had really core pillars of community buildings before Web3 came out. If you look at Friday Night Magic, if you guys study Friday Night Magic, it's a team of 15 Wizards of the Coast staff, like 15 people. They run about 1.5 million events every single year before COVID with 0 Wizards of the Coast staff, because every Friday, every card game shop has a Friday Night Magic event happening. And if you guys look at what their judging system is like, they have about 4,000 judges globally. These judges have, at level 1, you have to take a test to become a judge for Magic the Gathering, and you have to put your own time and money in to learn the game, play the game, but also be master at the game for the flex, the social status. And every Friday, you would have Magic the Gathering judges to judge these ecosystems, and the more you judge, you're eligible to take another test to get to level 2, level 3, level 4. And level 4 is where the biggest flex is, that you get to travel and judge the international competitions, the regionals, but between everything below level 4, you have to pay with your own money to go there. And it was never about money, right? Like, people are not intrinsically motivated by money. I really believe gaming really flipped that on its head with World of Warcraft guilds to RuneScape to judging system, because I think what people really crave is having a place to belong and an identity. And I think when you walk into Friday Night Magic, you can see like, oh shoot, it's a level 4 judge hanging out. It was kind of like me when I was a long time ago, I was a challenger League of Legends player. I was a big flex on my campus, and so that's kind of what I think Web3 allows, is to create the depth and community that didn't exist when it came to that Web2 couldn't serve. And I think that's why I'm excited about the technology, and so that's where my curiosity has led me so far.
It's really fascinating to hear. And just on that note, like when you do look at these pre-Web3 communities and ecosystems, what do you think is the largest lesson we can take away in community building, esports, that perhaps we haven't necessarily intensively applied today?
Yeah. So. The one thing that I loved about was one is free to play. Free to play is like, it was the reason why so many millions of people are now playing games. Look what Fortnite did, look what League of Legends did, Valorant. All these games popped off because it was easy to play with your friends. I don't think I've played a $60 game in years. I think the last one I bought was Elden Ring. It was recommended by like, it had to be recommended to like 30 friends. Right now, you're telling me I have to buy a game for like thousands of dollars to like play it, kind of, and like it kind of, for me as a competitive player, it kind of stings a little bit. But I think we can bring that back with the technology that Web3 allows, and it allows for. I'm excited to also see the ability to flex like by skill, like seeing someone that's a challenger, right? Like when you get outclassed by another player in the game, you feel like that's the stuff that is missing right now. And I think that is what Web2 has really done, is bringing a ton of people into games because it's free, but then making it where the skill base, you can really like see the skill difference in the players. And I think that's what's missing from like a game design side. The community side, I think the localizing things, like what that's why I've been passionate about college esports. In America right now, there's over like 500 varsity esports programs, and so students can actually get a full ride scholarships to play video games. And I think it creates it allows to make it more palatable and create the access for more people like us to make it in the gaming industry. So I think more programming to allow people to discover Web3 is what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and I'll also like add to that a little bit. The differentiator between Web3 and a lot of what's happening in Web2. I think we can answer with a rhetorical question, like what value add is there to being a fan of a content creator or an esports player, right? I think one of the large value adds with Web3 is like the ability to involve and reward community. So instead of just like me being a fan of, say 100 Thieves or FaZe Clan and just buying their merch and like having no real interaction with them outside of like commenting on their Twitch stream or YouTube stream or Facebook stream or whatever streaming platform, there's not much involvement, right? And I think that's something like, to his point about the becoming a level 4, you can become a level 4 fan, and that can be tracked on chain or through maybe the NFTs you hold or the amount of time you've held it, or etc. There's a lot of novel ideas that are being brought up that might not be as novel because we've seen Web2 examples of it, but being elevated by blockchain technology and Web3 technology and how things are approached here. And like those flexes can either be from being an OG, highly contributive community member, or spending the money to buy some of those assets off of an OG, highly contributive community member, right?
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And were you like a judge by any chance?
No, I never played Magic because I played Yu-Gi-Oh, but I was told to avoid it but I ended up playing League anyway, so it's like the same sinks, but in time and potentially money. But to that point, right? Like Twitch chat. So I was at Twitch for a few years. One of the craziest. One of my favorite events to go to was TwitchCon, because it wasn't like a regular trade show where it's like a bunch of different games, like flexing the game that's coming out this year, like a PAX or E3. But TwitchCon was special because you got to see all these different communities come together. Like you have a stream of people, like a community of like 10 to 20 viewers, all meet at TwitchCon for the first time and hang out. And then the mods felt like they were part of something, which is like that stream that was, even though it's small, they felt like a connection with other humans, and I think that was like really sick to see. That you could go to a TwitchCon, you can see circles of people all across TwitchCon. No one cared about the show or the boost. People just wanted to hang out with their Twitch community. And I think to your point with NFTs, I think you can add layers of depth to it, because I think with Twitch, like the elements that showed status in the community was like for me, I had the Twitch staff wrench. So I was, but then the mods had a sword, and then they had emotes for like tier 3 subs. But I think with NFTs, you can add so much more depth to different contributions that they've made in that community. Because I think there's a lot of the mods are. I always thought of mod as like the frontline, like the front line of the community, and then I think they could be rewarded a lot more that wasn't unlocked that couldn't be unlocked in Twitch. But I think Twitch paved the way for the inspiration. Like I think I was very inspired by community building when it came to Twitch. But I think with NFTs you can add that layer of depth that I think could exist. And especially with like Twitch taking, I'm not a big fan of like how much money that is extracted. Just because Twitch had, as a business, they have to take 50-50 cuts on subs. I think with Web3 it removes the middleman, and you can reward people like mods who dedicate so much time to that community. I've seen mods like every time my friend would turn on like their stream, the mod will be there for 8 hours straight. They just loved it so much. Because people greet them in chat, people hang out. That people need that connectiveness more than ever.
Yeah, that's 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like Rich, you just mentioned something that was really interesting to me, and RPD is kind of going in this direction as well. It's like as earnings from scholars fall, like as you said, guilds are sort of moving into more like value creative mechanisms, and with that, they're also becoming these like investment funds. Right? They're getting allocations into it. Is that sort of the direction you see these guilds evolving, like them having value creative services, then getting allocations, or like will it kind of shift towards like a grants style program or some sort of retroactive allocation from games? Like that's sort of what I was trying to get to in terms of like, what do you see as guilds become more value creative, the relationship between the games and the guilds?
Yeah, I think it's going to vary depending on the guild and the goals that they're trying to achieve. But guilds as they are today is essentially in that model, in that allocation-based model where most of the revenue is driven from assets under management and equity or token under management as well. It's community as a service, right? So a lot of the guilds have these massive communities, which can also be gamified to achieve different things. They can be used as beta testers, which we've done with a few games. They can go in and try to break the games and provide feedback, find certain game loops that might not be as obvious. So it's like community as a service, beta testing as a service, and then obviously bootstrapping the actual player base from day one is something that guilds also provide. So that's like a lot of the value that's driven to the games themselves, to bring in guilds at early stages. And then of course content marketing is like, how do you measure that for games, right? Getting the word out and getting videos, talking like VOD format, podcasts, etc., talking about the games and how the ecosystem works and how it works in the Web3 space, what the NFTs do and what they are. Because when you look up a random Web3 game, it's not 100% clear like what the NFTs are used for, how they interact with the game, what the meta is. So like if you're looking at something like Axie, there's a sense of team building that's required to build and create a good team. And from someone just coming into the game and very early in the game, it's not obvious as to like what the combination is that will work out for playing those games. And guilds can provide a lot of that information for people coming into those games as well.
Got it. Well, then on that note, like, how do you guys think about sort of staying at the top of mind for games? Like RPD is the guild that we want to partner with. Like, how do you guys think about staying competitive in that arena? Because I think I read that there was something like a 5-digit number of guilds at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's shown through historically, partnerships we've made, the value that we provide to those games, feedback, interaction with the games. So like. We keep most of the games that we invest in very close to the chest, try to make sure that they're successful. We give them feedback, we work with them on their tokenomics. I personally meet with a lot of the founders that we invest in regularly to talk through, some of the questions that they have, give feedback on their beta test, give feedback on tokenomic structure, how we want to see, how we potentially could see things improve. And of course, it's up to those games to take that feedback and make those changes. But being able to hear a lot of the feedback that a community of 10,000 gamers can provide before the game actually goes to market, I think is a huge value add. And one of the differences between a lot of what we're seeing in Web3 games and Web2 games, which I find astounding, and we'll get a lot more feedback. We're seeing a lot more feedback in games that are building in the open, and in a way where it's like very early and very small iterations of development of these games. So you'll see like a bunch of games drop their NFT first, and then like pre-alpha, and then alpha, and then like pre-beta, and then beta, and like versus the Web 2 world, you'll see and be able to go into betas, but these betas are pretty much fully fledged and built out games versus a lot of the Web 3 games that we've worked in and worked with and have seen. It's like maybe like 4% of the games have built, and they're already throwing it out there to the masses and like to the wolves to tear it apart, right? And having a sufficient pipeline of information and feedback and testing and all of that. It's like building with agile methodologies. If you reference from tech space, and getting that feedback and continuously building on top of it is something that's very novel as well.
Got it. And once you get that allocation, or once you've decided, the game has decided to partner with you guys, like what type of due diligence do you guys do to make sure like this is a game that we want to partner with, like this is something that has long-term potential?
Yeah, I have a long list of checklist of questions and things that we look through. I mean, like what the technology is, what the game engine is, the team, the founders. The one thing that you have to pay attention to in Web3 games is like a lot of people are getting a lot more money a lot earlier in the development stage. The founders focused on long-term development of the game. What happens when you hand them $5 to $10 million before the game's even finished? Do they care about finishing it? That's always like a very interesting question. So like understanding the founders' motivations and like what their goals are as well, how they're going to approach balance patches, which is like very difficult to do in Web3 because you're dealing with people's real money, and it's generally, currently a lot more money than what people are putting into Web2 games. So balance patching is a very interesting topic, and how the games are going to approach that. Obviously, tokenomics and how you have what the like anti-whale mechanisms are, how they're handling the earners, and how they're going to contribute to the ecosystem. Is there a way to allow them to be liquidity providers without being extractive? And then, of course, how are you running through burn mechanisms, lower storytelling, as well as like pursuing buy-side pressure natively through how the gameplay is and the game loops are set up. So there's a long list. I could probably keep going, but that's a lot of what I like to think through. And also, of course, what's the target community audience? Like every game is built around a very specific community audience and target, and that's what makes or breaks the game as well.
Yeah, got it. That was super, super helpful. And Kevin, I'm not sure how much time we have left, but Kevin, you just briefly mentioned like using NFTs to build localized communities and esports communities. Like, what are some other prescriptions that you might have for games that want to build really, really deep and strong communities, and especially in esports?
Yeah. Well, for esports only, I would say like don't start with esports. I think the community will make it in esports if they decide the game is competitive enough. Just provide the, we've seen games in Web2 that try to force esports upon their players' throats, and it didn't pan out. So that's like first and foremost. For what we're doing is mostly like we're just getting our community, which is all mostly college students, into Web3 by helping them, like they're opening their first wallets, they're running events and then minting NFTs for free because it's like an achievement. So we're kind of like in gamifying the community, hyper local. And then by the time the quality of Web3 games get there, I think we can be a pretty cool launchpad to activate in these like gaming communities that we've forged. And like right now we're in like 500 universities in the Philippines, and like that could be a cool like way to build intentional communities around. For the game developers themselves, I always think the way that I think building in the open like this and is really cool, a very refreshing take. I think getting a lot of player inputs from guilds is is really exciting, and I think it's a fresher taste. It's fresh when it comes to like game developments. I feel like a lot of some of the big games that were flopped with a lot of money, even in Web2, just didn't listen to their player base enough. And I think if you can embrace the community's feedback and their love for your IP, your game, I think that's always a good start. It's also important to recognize who your campaigners are, like the people that are willingly organizing stuff for your community already and giving them incentives and helping them be that community champion and help them rise up to become that person. Whether that's through merch, whether that's through getting access to events, whether that's just having more time with the devs, those are the people that know your game the most, and I think that's what makes communities these types of community organizers that starts just from because they like the game. So I think that's really about it's like game design, but not really like working on the game directly, but more like community design using game systems. Like I think that's what's missing in like a lot of Web2 games too. It's like they don't have enough things for those different types of community members to rise up from. So that's what I'm excited about. Want to work with games more on.
Yeah, got it. That's absolutely. Yeah, I feel like that's the way to go. Just want to open the floor for the audience to ask any questions if they have any. Just like feel free to raise your hand. I'll run over there with the microphone. And yeah, like ask these guys anything you want. Oh, they're not like. Do you guys have like a TLDR of like the meatiest things that you guys have talked about today? Advice for builders, two-liners that we can end with?
Yeah, I think. So you're saying for builders, for people developing games, or
People developing games, people developing guilds. Like, what is your most high-value advice at the moment?
Yeah, I think finding your community and building for that community and what they're looking for is a lot more important, and there's a lot more value there than trying to build something and then trying to find the community that fits that. So it's like create a solution for a problem. Don't create a problem for a solution. I think that would be a very good approach for a lot of the games community out there. So like one of the things I like to ask the most is like, who's this game for, right? I get you're in X genre and building X game and you have this novel idea, but who's the player base? Who are you pursuing, and how do you see them fitting into your game ecosystem and playing into the game loops? And that can be applied to guilds as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, mine is like to keep an open mind. I would like when I didn't go down this rabbit hole until like last October. Learned so much from this space, and I would say that listen to that like 10-year-old naive voice in your head about what could be, and I think that will lead you. Like, just follow your curiosity. I don't know what I don't know, and it's every day should be approached with an open mindset. And I think philosophically, that's what Web3 is. It's reinventing like what could be, and I think a lot of these solutions that are being created today are every founder in the space is trying to make their business work, make their dreams happen. And I think that's really refreshing. So listen to that 10-year-old naive kid in your brain. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for your time today. Where can people who want to reach you?
Yeah, I'm at ReadyPlayerRich on Twitter, and our DAO is at ReadyPlayerDAO.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Kebunbun. It's my in-game name. So KEBUNBUN. And our company name is called AcadArena. It's like academy, and then arena.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eric.